You're listening to Back to the Roots podcast. This episode is brought to you by Soil Biotics. Today we feature 2 Soil Biotics organic products for growing season use. Number 1 is Organic 3R Growth Boost. It is a liquid humic product which may improve nutrient uptake by the plant. It can be foliar applied along with nitrogen fertilizers, supplemental nutrients, and herbicide applications. The second product is SB 4400. It is a combination of beneficial microbes which can protect roots from disease, assist the plant in fixing nitrogen, help solubilize phosphates, and free up other nutrients. It helps to mitigate salt in the soils and aids in continuing residue breakdown. Soil Biotics organic products are formulated to work together to meet all your organic agricultural needs. See more at soilbiotics.com. Soil Biotics, providing full circle improvement for soil health and plant growth naturally.
Well, I'm Jon. I'm from Lancaster, Wisconsin, and it's been a really good first 6 months of the year. Started really cold, so killed a bunch of the bugs. We got into the fields the first part of April, doing small grain and doing some interseeding of alfalfa into my winter wheat and some paddocks. And then, we got oats in, pretty good timing. Had some decent rains, not a lot like we did last year. Temperatures were a little cool to start with. And then I guess about the first part of May, the heat really come on, and so my pastures really took off and got ahead of the cattle. And then, we got in, I think we started planting corn around the 18th of May, which is the 20th is my ideal spot. So we were pretty well right on. Got all my corn in good shape. It come up good. We cultivated 2 times we harrowed it 5 days after we planted it. And then, about 3 weeks ago, we got through the first time, and then just a week ago, we finished our second pass, and it's shoulder high now, looking really good. We had a really bad windstorm and rain. We had 2.5 inches of rain yesterday, came in about 20 minutes. So some of my corn's tipped over. The neighbor's corn, who was in 2 weeks prior to mine, some of that's flat. Hopefully it'll come out. We got first crop up in pretty decent shape. I think we cut the 2nd or 3rd of June. We just got test back from that. It's about 20% protein, which is really good for me in first crop. We didn't have a lot of it, but what we did put up was really good quality. We started oatlage last Thursday, I guess, and we finished on Friday, Saturday. Put up, I think we had 120 acres. We put up 500 feet of bag. We have not gotten that tested yet. I'll be testing that probably this week. I'd like to leave it sit and ferment for a week before I test it. And then did a second crop and some ryegrass. Got that up. It was a lot drier than what I normally put up, which is okay by me. I wrap everything anyways, but I don't mind a little dry when I wrap because I don't have storage for dry seeds. And that didn't run quite as good as I was hoping. It was about a bale and a half to the acre is all, but I think the quality is going to be pretty good. I'll be testing that next week also. And as far as grazing goes, we've been grazing all day, all night, up until a week ago. We've had some 100 to 105 degree heat index, so they've been standing in the free stalls during the day. and then they graze at night. About 2 weeks ago, we put in some sorghum sedan. We grazed some of that last night. It was about 8 to 12 inches tall. They really like that. Other than that, everything is going pretty good.
So, John, you mentioned the 105 heat index. Did the hot weather just come in, or has it been around a while?
No, this last week was the first 90 to 100 degree days that we've had. We've had a lot of 80s, so it's been pretty good that way. But this is the very first hot weather we've had this year.
What about fly pressure? Have you had a lot of flies on the cows?
Well, we tried a few things a little different this year, and I thought, boy, we really got it under control. We brought some chickens over that we got rid of. Our chicken flock, we ended up bringing over about 25 or 30 of them on the farm, and boy, they were going to town, and then coons got them, but there was no flies until probably a week and a half ago. And I thought, man, that did the trick. And plus, we were feeding a little bit of garlic salt to help deter the flies, and I thought, man, this is really awesome. In the last week, they are terrible. So we put up fly tapes, and I got a oiler that we put no fly in as they come into the parlor. That's helping a lot. But yeah, they really come on strong this last week. It's one of them things where every year is you try to work with what you remember from last year, and boy, I thought I had it, and then bang. Oh.
Yeah. So with your quality of forage that you put up this year, are you expecting good production? I mean, do you feel the quality is going to be there to make good winter milk?
I think it will be, as long as I don't feed through it this summer. It does heat, and luckily we've been getting a little bit of rains here and there, and so I'm not completely dried up. But I mix TMR all year, but of course it's only about 25% of what I normally do. And so I will be feeding some of it up, but we do try to keep, the better stuff for winter. But in a harvester, it's kind of hard because you got to feed from the bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think we're going to have a better milk production this winter than we did last winter, only because last year I only had about 16 to 17% protein in my feeds, and that doesn't bring a lot of milk unless you put a lot of protein in your ration.
Well, John, thank you so much for the update. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed these updates so far, so thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. I enjoy hearing what everybody else is going through.
So here from Western Oregon, we've had an exceptionally mild, cool start to summer here. It's been probably the best year we've seen in 10, 12, 15 years as far as weather that the cows really like, and as far as the weather that the cool season grasses like. So production has been really pretty good, grass and with the cows. One usually follows the other. As long as you're doing a good job with the forages, milk production usually follows. So it's been a good year. We've got dryland hill ground that's usually burned up by now and dry, and we're actually taking a third cutting up a dryland hill ground, which we've never done in our 30 years of being on the farm. So it's definitely a different kind of weather year we're dealing with this year. A very pleasant weather year we're dealing with this year. The whole springtime has stacked up pretty nicely. Over the last 6 months, we were wintertime's always wintertime. It's always slimy and wet. However, wintertime seems to be getting warmer and warmer all the time, where we don't really deal with any freezes. And that does cause some issues with things like voles in the fields. The voles don't die off as bad if you don't get a very severe winter. And the winter was relatively dry compared to what we're supposed to have. And so everybody was screaming drought, drought, drought. And we are in what's termed a drought because we're 8 or 9 or 10 inches behind normal precipitation for the year. The weather year starts in October. But what we did get instead was some timely rains in April and May, which really helped out. So sometimes it's not how much you get, but when you get it that really counts. And we got it when things needed to be growing, because most of our water comes in the middle of winter time when the grasses really don't need it. And that's really one of the reasons. That's the big reason why we still have green grass on dry land hill ground. So it's been a relatively pleasant year. Our second cutting is all done. We're teeing up for third cutting now. We're about to graze. We took one of our fields out of grass, and when I do that to replant, I do a summer annual first. So we grazed it twice with the milk cows, and then we plowed it, disked it, and planted sorghum sudan with some Italian ryegrass and some berseem clover. And that now is starting to really move and grow. The only downside to a cool year is that the cool summer doesn't grow the C4 grasses like the sorghum sudan very fast. So that slowed that down, but I'll take that any day for having cow comfort and having all the rest of my grasses doing really well. So we're getting ready to graze that for the first time. Everything else, we're actually starting our fourth rotation. We started our first rotation in mid-March, and then our second, in a little bit later than mid-April, and then a little bit later than mid-June, actually late June, and now we're into our first fields of our fourth round on our grazing round. So really, it's been a year that I would take again and again and again if the weather wanted to stack up like this. So and that's kind of seems like how it goes in the country, is one region kind of gets the nicer weather and the other region gets the lousier weather anymore. So this year, I guess this is our chance, and hopefully we don't get the wildfires this summertime that blow smoke into the valley here, because that makes it really hard to grow grass and to keep the cows comfortable and healthy, because all that smoke really buggers everything up.
Hey, John, if I can jump in here, what is the rest period for your pastures? I'm guessing you go through faster, like the first time through, than you will the second, and then stretch it out, or how does that work for you?
Well, that's the goofy part about our rotation. We're at about a 33, 34-day rotation, and I know that whole talk about going faster at the front end. Well, the front end, the first grazing out, we don't want to speed it up because the grass is just keeping ahead of the cows, early in the season. Then the next grazing through, the second grazing is where you usually speed it up, but we don't really speed it up that much either. We kind of keep the same rotation going and then just act accordingly. That always causes like maybe the last field or two of that grazing to be a little more mature than I want to see, but we clip that back down and then we get back to square one and get going again. We could, in theory, jump ahead of Pastures and put some of that into feed into bales instead, and in that second rotation. But I kind of like the ground cover a little higher here. We like to have our residual a little higher after the cows are out, and I don't mind clipping some forage back down after the cows have creamed it off, because I think that really adds to some organic matter in the soil, and so we've never really sped that up. And so the third rotation, which realistically probably should be slowed down even more, but the only way you slow it down even more is by feeding a lot more feed in the barn. And we don't do that. We kind of stay on that 33, 34-day rotation all through the system, all through the seasons, and act accordingly. And we have, now that we're on grass milk, the cows eat a lot more forage, so that really helps out on that second pass through. And the third pass through, we always start feeding a couple bales of baleage to our herd of 160 cows. So we're feeding 2 bales a day now, and that just balances out the grasses. And once we get our C4 grass field coming in, well, we can back off on that because there'll be a lot more grass out there.
And thanks for that. That's really interesting to me because it's a little bit different in every region with the weather patterns on your days through. So how are your quality forages first half of the year?
Oh, we've had really, really high quality forage. It's been, even though they say you get less sun, you get less energy in the grass, but I find a lot of forage, at the right stage makes up for that. The cows will adjust accordingly, and I do think the cows eat a lot more forage when there's a little less energy in the forages, just because they're trying to get enough energy. So I do see that vary in the cows' grazing habits. So if I have plenty of grass in that early grazing, we'll actually see our peak milk on this farm in April due to the fact that the forage quality is so high and the cows will eat so much of it because there's unending amounts there. And even on a cloudy, cool year like this, where maybe the energy levels are down in the grasses, they make up for that by eating so much more of it that we really see our peak production there in April.
And I take it if the quality of the pastures was so good, the baleage that you made silage was the exact same story?
We've been putting up really good silage. So with this wet, cool year, we only had 2 kind of little windows to put up baleage, and I have my youngest son who's back to the farm now, and he was available for duty. So we jumped on it, and we did something I'm always a little uncomfortable about, is just cutting huge amounts ahead of the baler, because you set yourself up for, if something breaks down, you got a lot of feet on the ground. And with a weather pattern like we have, you didn't have much window to pick it back up. But knock on wood, all the equipment held together just fine. We got it up. We got really high quality forage up. And we got a cover crop that was a 9 variety cover crop. We fall planted cover crop that we put up that even though it was kind of tall when we put it up on the 9th of May, we opened up one of those bales here recently, and it was absolutely beautiful feed. It had peas and vetch, 2 kinds of vetch, triticale and oats before they came out of the boot, some annual ryegrass, some crimson clover, some fava beans, and a couple different brassicas in it. And the cows really charged through that bale when we put it out to them. So the forage, it's been a good forage year, a really good forage year, and our third cutting will be really high quality too. So and we just on our new farm, after we took that cover crop off, I planted 25 acres of it to alfalfa, and that we got a really good sprout with the moisture we had, even though I planted it probably 2 to 3 weeks later than I should have, but we got lucky and got the right weather pattern. So so that's looking pretty good now too. A little weedy, but we'll go in and mow the weeds down and we'll be fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this update. Really interesting, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the guys around the country. So thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah. The only thing I'm really sad about is I missed last month's call, and I apologize for that. Mostly that the world didn't get to hear that you can't trust what Sam Dobson says last month again. But hey, I'm reminding everybody, be wary of Sam Dobson.
Good day, everyone. hope everyone across the country is good. It's Sam Dobson from here in North Carolina, and we're in the month of July now, and the heat's finally showed up. We've enjoyed fairly mild temperatures, or maybe a little unseasonably, a little cooler up until this point, but now we're hitting 90 about every day or close to it, and humidity's pretty high. The rainfall there has been spotty in this part of the country. It's dry here at my farm, but like I talked to Chris Hoffner the other day, and he'd had 6/10, and there's been scattered rain around, but starting to see the corn twist a little bit, so we're kind of hoping to see some rain sometime in the near future. The grazing, we're kind of rolling into our summer annuals now, which is good. Hopefully get some water to keep it growing after we graze it. But so things are pretty well. Cows are definitely going off in production with the heat. We're losing a little ground there, but that's to be expected, and hopefully we'll just have to ride this wave for another 60, 90 days, and we'll roll into fall at some point. But the first half of the year, we've had, I don't think there can be too many complaints about the year. I know it's the world and our country's a lot tougher shape than I think we are here on the farm, but glad to be on the farm. I know with all the circumstances that we've had, but we just keep battling. It's good to see the Organic Valley kind of having a good first half of the year financially. Hopefully that'll translate on down to the farm at some point. I don't think we're quite where we need to be price-wise at the farm to really move forward, but we're solid, and I think it's just up to us as individuals being the best managers possible is going to be the key to profitability at the farm. But as far as grazing was really good first half of the year in the southeast. Everybody was did really well in that department. Up until this point, the summer crops, the corn and those beans and those things look good. But when we go into the August report, that could look totally different if it don't rain in the heat we have down here. But we'll keep battling, and North Carolina here, we're kind of seeing a rise in the COVID cases again, and it's kind of to be expected because a lot of people, I think, have just said they're done with it, and they're going back to the restaurants, and they're going to the beaches, and they're crowding up, and I think a lot of folks are just saying, well, if I get it, I get it. And I don't know if that's the right approach or not, but I think that's why you're seeing a pretty good little rise in the cases. Some people are still taking it very serious, but then a lot of people have just kind of ignored it altogether. That's what we're seeing in our local communities here. So that pretty much wraps up the first half of the year and the month, and we'll take it from there, Mike.
Well, I just have one question on your forage quality of the baleage and silage and stuff that you've made this year. Have you had exceptional quality, average, or how was it?
It's been really good. Our quality has probably been a little above average. Matter of fact, we've hit some, and the key was digestibility, getting it cut at the right time, which is probably too. But I think a lot of the guys that are combining wheat and barley have seen extremely good yields. I've heard of a little bit of 100-bushel barley down here, which is very uncommon in the southeast. The wheat looks really good. I think it's yielded really well. But I think a lot of that was just because we had the good cooler spring. We've hit some 200 RFQs where for down here is in the southeast is exceptional. I mean, a lot of times if we're in the upper 100s with our spring baleage, we're happy, but we've had a lot of 200 plus RFQs, which has been really good. That feed's feeding really well. We're trying to, out here on our farm, I know we've tried to preserve as much of that and put it back for winter, when we're at peak milk or, a lot better production. So we've had good volume of feed. We've already made more hay and feed As far as baleage goes and hay, dry hay, we've already made more at this point in the year than we did all of last year. But we had a pretty decent silage crop last year, so we're still, up until this point, things look good, but we'll see how the summer crops do. But, you know, we've stayed in front of the weeds. We've done some no-till corn here. It's doing really well. Hoping to do more and more of that next year where we roll down the cover crop. I've got some that we did it that way, and then I have some where we did a lot of tillage. And up until this point, the no-till is doing a lot better. We'll see how that, we'll track that all the way through. But we've had very good seed this year, yes.
Hey, and make sure and keep us updated on that no-till corn versus the tilled corn. We had Dr. Aaron Silva on talking about no-till and organics, so be really curious to see how that works out. And
I listened to that podcast. It was really good, and I think a lot of Aaron, and I think we already know a few things we're going to change up for next year as far as the cover crop goes. We did it expecting for tillage, you know, and so the oats, we had oats in crimson clover and vetch, and some of those oats came back a little bit. But in the first month, I was really worried about the crop. I thought the oats was going to choke it out. But now the oats are kind of dead, and I don't know if there's a way we could, at some point in time, post some pictures. But I'm going to kind of monitor it, take some pictures, and we're going to keep up with the data as far as tonnage and all that. And I'll keep you posted for sure.
I really appreciate that. And with the good forage crop this year going into baleage, should help with fall and winter production once we're off of pasture. So glad to hear that you're having a good year. It's been exciting to get these updates with all you guys, and it just seems like a large part of the country is having a really good year on the farm, which is wonderful to see.
We need it with all the bad news that's been, and you know, we'll see. I'm getting a little concerned with the summer crops. It's getting a little dry down here, but hopefully we'll get some rain, and I think we'll finish the year out pretty strong.
All right. Well, Sam, thank you so much for your update. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great week.
Thank you, Mike.
This is Thomas Heckman from West Central Ohio, doing my monthly update for July 9th. The weather for the past couple weeks, we haven't had much rain. It's been warm, sunny, a few showers here and there. We'd get 4/10 here or 4/10 there, just enough to keep stuff kind of going. But then this last week, it got hot last week, and this week we're in 90, 95, hot and humid. And all week here we've had pop-up storms. On the home farm here where the dairy is, we caught 4/10 yesterday. Just a half mile over on another farm, we got an inch. And another farm south of us got an inch 2 days ago. So some of our ground's been getting some rain. At my dad's place, it's a half mile away. He hasn't had anything. New stand of hay over there and some pasture, so that could use some. So we're hoping maybe tomorrow still got this heat, we can catch some more rains. But it's hot and it ain't no fun. So for field work, crops look really good. I cultivated the corn twice, and this year I think it's best we ever went cultivating. The ground stayed loose and it flowed nice. I was able to really hill it up. The last couple of years have been tough with all the rain, and I haven't cultivated in this nice and smooth in a long time. It really worked well. Weed control's great. We got a little bit of morning glory in the one farm here on the home place, and that's it's like a vine weed. That's hard to get rid of. So I got knocked back some. Hopefully it's not too bad. And the cutworm, luckily, didn't do a whole lot of damage, so we got by without that, so that helps. So overall, the corn I'm really happy with the corn. Got good color. One farm, it's curling up because we haven't caught a rain there, so if we can catch some rain, Yeah, I think it'll be all right. Hay-wise, we cut and baled 65 acres of oats. Didn't make much, but it should be good quality. Got 36 bales off that, so like I said, didn't make much at all. But the alfalfa's all there under it, and we caught some rains on some of it, so it's coming up nice. So I'm hoping to make 2 more cuttings off of that, so we can get some feed. We started trying to combine trip this past week, and we just can't get the moisture down. It's been 17% every day. Yesterday I got it down to between 15 and 16, so I ran 1 hopper load on the combine, and then I got rained out. That's where we got an inch of rain on that. It's got a good stand of clover under it, so that's nice. So I'd like to get that off and wash straw out there. And the oats is coming along. It's turning. It's short, but I'm not sure how it'll do for grain. It looks good, so we'll see. It's real short this year. But oats around here, nobody's oats did worth a darn. For cows and the grazing, the grass here, still growing on the home place here. We got a couple small rains here and there. I think that's helped keep it growing. We're on the 3rd time over, halfway through grazing. Oh, I've only been night grazing for about 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks. I feed more silage after milking in the morning, the silage and grain, and then I just turn them out after night milking to pasture. It's so hot that they ain't going out. I mean, I don't want to be out there, so I got nice fans in the freestall barn, so they stay in there. It's just too hot, so we dropped off a milk, 55 pounds probably. We might drop off some more here. It's really taking a toll on them. So 3.6 fat, 3 protein, just hot and muggy. And things on the farm, we just got we went through a Biotics inspection this week. That went good. So I'm happy we worked to get prepared for that. So I've been doing that. We started working on wanting to put a new milking parlor in a different part of the barn. So did some gutting of a hay mound and putting new ceiling in. So that's going on. COVID-19, nothing's really changed. Stuff's kind of opened up, and I don't know, not back to normal, but not far from it, I don't think, around here, kind of calm. And this year, compared to the last 6 months, this year's been great. Last year was terrible. It was stressful, the late planting, so this year's been a beautiful year. Yeah, so it's been pretty good here in West Central Ohio.
Well, that's good to hear. I know that in majority of the country, it seems like this year is just simply better than the last couple. So I've got a couple of questions. On your morning glory, is there any way to control that without just cultivating it out?
I don't think so. We've had it. We got 2 farms that got it. And when we used Dad Farm conventionally, we keep farm borderline, and he would spray sometimes for it. And the worst problem is you think you got it cleaned up and tore out, and then later in the year it'll grow up, and vines that grow up around that corn. And then when you go to shell it's a pain. I haven't come up with even having it in hay. This field's been in hay for 4 years, a nice hay field. Well, it wasn't nice. We tore it up here, got flooded out, and killed it. But
that was my question, because when I was a kid growing up, we had a little bit of it, and once we left it in hay for a couple of years, we were able to never let it go to seed, and it kind of died out. I thought maybe that was the solution, but it doesn't sound like it.
At least here it hasn't been, and I think it got worse out here than it was, but I think because we had all them rains and the field got thin, I think that hurt it. The alfalfa got thin and it was just grass, so then it allowed it to come back here. And then we got one other farm that we rent. We rented it for 30 years, and we tried shelling it 2 years ago, and we had to wait till it froze to kill it because it was all through the corn. It was a mess. So no, I don't have I don't know if a flamer would have done it enough, but it can grow once the corn, once you can't do anything and get in there, it grows up the corn, and not like you're shading it out or anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, if somebody listening to this has a solution, please send us an email and I'll get it to Thomas. So another question I had was, how have the flies been on your cows? I know here they really didn't seem to show up until like 2 weeks ago.
They haven't been bad. I tried Gene got me doing this permethrin with mineral oil, pouring that on, pour on, and that seemed to help here. I need to about do it again. It doesn't completely knock them out or whatever, and it's kind of expensive, but boy, it helped. They're not throwing feed on their backs and stuff as bad. So this is the first year I've tried that. And then I put in we always put DE in the feed, and that helps with house flies. So like you walk through the barn, you're not eating them, but on the cows that never really helps. So this has helped some. And I haven't checked into that garlic in the salt. I don't know if that's a good deal or not.
Well, I'm feeding it to my Herefords, and I've got less flies on them than I've ever had on any beef I've had. So I don't know if it's the garlic salt or not from Redmond, but I know there's a lot of dairies in this area that are feeding it, and so far I've heard lots of success stories with it. So time will tell.
Okay, well, you guys try it out and then let me know.
Will do. All right. Well, Thomas, I thank you for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to give us an update, and hope you have a great weekend. This episode is brought to you by Soil Biotics.